This is the Tumi 3-watch case, and this is probably one of the best hard-sided watch cases you could buy right now on the market, and that's quite frankly because there's so few hard-sided watch travel cases available for purchase nowadays. And this one is brought to you by a European watch company. No, I'm just kidding. This is unrelated to European watch company. But in this video, I'll work on this from the inside out, starting with the cushions and then moving on to the overall exterior construction. And for watch cases, I really think that is the most important side. The most important part about watch cases are the cushions, how the cushions are supported, and then the actual protection provided by the case. So without further ado, let's pop this bad boy open. To open it, you have this little plastic slide. Yes, I did say plastic slide. We will talk more about this later on the exterior of the case. So inside here, these are the 3 watches that I have in here just for this video. These watches typically live in either a travel case or in the bank. Unfortunately, just due to how expensive watches are getting nowadays. But let's talk about these cushions. We'll use this one, for example. We'll use this watch, for example. These cushions are great. These feature a little, almost like a little W-shaped cushion, which allows these wings to compress. And this is pretty compatible with larger sized wrists. My wrists are about 7¼ inch, and I would say these cushions could work with watches up to maybe a 7¾ inch wrists. 8 inches might be a little bit pushing it, but these cushions are fantastic. Another thing is how these cushions actually work. So these are sliding slotted cushions, which means once these cushions are in place, they're fairly locked in place unless there is an extreme movement that can dislodge them. But even then, if these cushions dislodge here, all of this is a velvety lining, which means that you should not scratch your watch, even if this experiences a very hard jolt. Another thing that I love about this is these components here are actually made out of plastic. And now at first you might be thinking plastic, that's bad. But with precious metal watches, that's very good. I did see Ben Taylor's video with his Rimowa watch case, and when he was putting his Datejust on and off, I just heard that aluminum on steel scratching sound, and that gave me a little bit of anxiety. But thankfully for these cushions, you do have these plastic components, which is what actually slots into your watch. And because they're plastic, when you put your watches on and off, even if you tap it a little bit, it's plastic, it's not going to damage, it's not going to hurt your watch. These are some of the minor things that I think about all the time when I put my watches in and out of the case. And we'll talk about more about specific metallic features on this case in a little bit. But these cushions are fantastic. The support mechanism here is also fantastic. As you can see, these components here are rigid, with a little bit of flex, but they're completely rigid and slotted. I'm trying not to slide my watch up there, and slotted. So when you put your watches in there, again, like I said, extremely secure, and you can access them all individually without taking them off of a log, like on the Wolf watch case. And now that we talked about the cushions, let's talk about more of the actual case and where it provides protection. A nice thing about this is you can set the watches off. Fuck. You can't set the watches over here on that. And we'll move the watches off to the side for actually talking about this case. So this case is full aluminum, except for this locking mechanism here. I do wish that this part was metal because it would provide the extra peace of mind, but it still is quite strong. If you're pulling on it, it will not open unless you actually break this little plastic tab here. Now, looking at the overall construction of this, watch case, it's pretty great. For it is a 50-50 clamshell design, so when you open it, it does open up 50-50, so it will rest flat. You can have your watches over here and use this as sort of a valet tray, as long as you don't close it with your keys in there, because your watches will probably not enjoy that. But looking at the overall interior construction, you have a piece of what I'm assuming is a die-cast aluminum that helps frame the two halves of the case, a metal pin insert that comes in through here to help provide the strength for the hinge and to actually make the hinge, and then the top components and bottom components appear to be a stamped aluminum, and I'm guessing stamped aluminum and welded along these edges here, and then it's polished off and then applied with a brushed finish. So you do have a stamped aluminum body with what kind of feels like as a die-cast aluminum frame on the inside here, and then you have all of this velvet with padding interior components here. It's a very slight amount of padding. And of course, with all Tumi accessories, you do have this little leather swatch here, which is where you can add your personalization. These leather little swatches are just glued in, and with a fingernail or with a screwdriver, you can pop these in and out and replace them as you see fit. If you give this to one of your friends, and it did have your initials on there, you can go to the Tumi store, they'll pop it out, they'll give you a new unblemished one or unmarked one, and away you go. Overall, the construction on this watch case is pretty phenomenal. It does come in at a slightly high price point of around $500, but in the world of watch accessories, it's really not that much money relative to some of the watches. So for example, like if you look at the cost of the watches that I place in here, the price of the case is relatively insignificant, but I do think it does provide a tremendous amount of protection for what it is. If it is from impact, if it is from vibration, this won't really protect against vibration. The only padding in here is on the actual watch rolls. But for very strong impacts, you know, this being a stamped aluminum featuring the same 19-degree pattern that they use in their luggage, I'm sure that this will hold up to an immense amount of abuse. And at $500, although it's expensive, I do think it is a pretty good value with the aluminum enclosure as well as the very well designed cushions. The main reason why I bought this is, well, I guess it was because of the aluminum housing, but also these cushions are done so well. I think they absolutely killed it with these cushions. So these are compatible with small wrists and big wrists, and this plastic. It's great. It's great. So yeah, I'm very surprised how so few videos of the Tumi 3-watch case are online on YouTube today. I really do think they should be getting more attention, a lot more attention than the Louis Vuitton 3-watch rolls. And this is pretty great. If you're traveling in your hand luggage, this does get pretty heavy, but rest assured, your watches will be protected. This being spring-loaded, you know, this does hold it pretty well in place. I'm sure if you threw this on the ground, this would open up, but if you throw this on the ground, you got bigger problems. But yeah, this is the Tumi 3-watch case. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks.